Kenneth K. woke up in the back of an ambulance traveling west on I-10 toward Lafayette General Hospital. He began to shake with violent coughing fits, and the EMT gently helped him roll onto his side to clear his airway of mucus and regurgitation. "What the hell happened?" Kenneth coughed. "The factory caught fire," the EMT said. "What?" asked Kenneth in horror. "Is everyone okay?" The ER doctor didn't answer him, just continued to monitor Kenneth's vital signs, and then put the mask back over Kenneth's mouth and nose so Kenneth's lungs could fill with oxygen. The emergency room at Lafayette General Hospital was filled with victims of the Bender's factory fire, being triaged and examined in order of severity. No, examine her first," Kenneth demanded, as an orderly began rolling him into the compartment ahead of Patsy Bourdillon. "You have head injuries. She has burns," the orderly corrected him. "What?" "I don't have," said Kenneth and passed out again. When he came to, bright sunlight was beaming through the window. The ward was semi-detached, the other bed was occupied by Big Mike. They jokingly called him Big Mike. The man was just over 5 feet tall. Big Mike was very stocky, his chest and arms a mass of bulging muscle. "Man, we're damn lucky to be alive at all," Big Mike moaned when he noticed Kenneth was awake. "Uh-huh," Kenneth moaned, not feeling very lucky. "Heard some of us died," Big Mike continued, and then Kenneth heard Big Mike sob quietly. "Oh my God," Kenneth moaned, sighing dully at the thought of the deaths of his friends and co-workers. "Man, what the hell happened?" asked Big Mike. "I don't know, I bought some cocaine from a vending machine, and then woke up in some ambulance," Kenneth admitted. 4 days later, Lafayette General discharged Kenneth K. Big Mike suffered a broken back and will be in the hospital for a few more days. Jennifer K., Kenneth's wife, drove 40 miles from Bender to Lafayette to pick up her husband. The tall blonde woman let him know she wasn't thrilled that she had to make such a long trip. Kenneth sat next to her and wondered, not for the first time, why he had married this strident woman in the first place. Yes, she was beautiful, or had been beautiful 19 years ago standing behind the McDonald's counter, but beauty alone was not enough to justify her attitude or behavior. Their marriage was the usual "guess what, honey," and Kenneth had agreed to do the right thing, to marry the frightened, angry Jennifer Moore and give the child that was growing in her belly a loving home. He put his dream of becoming a professional baseball player on the back shelf, along with his dream of becoming a rock star bass player, and took a job at Bender's mattress factory. When he learned that shifts from midnight to 8 paid 20 cents an hour more, he jumped at the chance. No, the more we can save up, honey, the sooner we can get out of this crummy apartment and buy our own house for you, me and Kenny, Kenneth said, stroking his wife's swelling belly. Jennifer gave birth to a beautiful blonde baby girl and named her Jadia Ann K. Jadia? Kenneth crinkled his face at the strange name. Yeah, see, I went to school with this girl. Her mom named her Verisa, you know? Instead of Teresa, and I remember thinking it was so cool that her mom loved her enough to give her kid her own name, you know? I mean, there are hundreds of Jennifers around here, but how many Veras do you know, huh? Explained Jennifer. Greedy, interjected Kenneth. Where the hell did that come from? Yeah, it's like Nadia, only with age, get it? Said Jennifer. Kenneth sighed, realizing it was useless to argue with Jennifer. She had already made up her mind. No sooner had Jadia started walking than Jennifer announced that they were expecting a baby again. Okay, but I'm going to name this baby, Kenneth insisted. Uh-huh, Jennifer replied, not about to let him name her baby. Jalissa Amy K. was born, a bushy blonde with blue eyes like her mother's. Jalissa? Asked Kenneth, frowning. My mom's name is Melissa, so it's like Melissa, but with age, Jennifer explained, and then proceeded to coo and cradle the wrinkled baby. Sounds like a name for a pauper, Bernice K., Kenneth's mother, whispered loudly. Kenneth had been saving, despite Jennifer's capacity for extravagant spending, and had managed to raise a tidy sum for his dream of having his own family home. Okay, you can buy it, but I'm not living here, Jennifer grumbled when Kenneth showed her the house they could afford. It's a starter home, he patiently tried to explain. I've saved enough money that we can buy it outright and then renovate it, sell it, and use that money to buy a bigger house. But Jennifer had decided that the bigger house should come now, not later, and had forced Kenneth to shell out a tidy sum for a much bigger house. At 14% interest, the mortgage was easily eating up more than half his paycheck. As the three women and Kenneth were settling into their home, Jennifer announced that they were having a baby again. Damn it, honey, whined Kenneth. I can barely feed us. And now we're having another baby? 6-year-old Jadia and 5-year-old Jalissa decided they hated JC Alice K. and tormented the little brunette infant as often as they could. Kenneth hadn't even asked the baby's name or inquired about its origins. Both he and Jennifer were blonde, and both had light blue eyes. There had only been one brunette in Kenneth's lineage in the last 100 years, and no one was sure of Oliver Kay's ancestry. But even Oliver had light blue eyes, not the deep brown ones that JCK had. Very little was known about Jennifer's lineage. Most of her relatives had lost touch with each other years ago. So it was entirely possible that the brown hair and brown eyes were a recessive gene somewhere in Jennifer's lineage. But JC had been a daddy's girl since birth. Jennifer was content to take care of her two girls, leaving the care of JC to her father. And leaving JC's protection to her father, too. "Mommy! He hit me!" screamed Jalissa at the top of her lungs after Kenneth spanked her. "I caught her when she was about to drop this on JC's head," Kenneth explained, holding up a large ceramic piggy bank. "I wasn't going to," Jalissa lied. "I was just showing it to her." "While she was asleep?" grinned Kenneth, and Jalissa had the nobility to blush at being caught in such an obvious lie. Kenneth didn't notice that Jalissa addressed him as he instead of Papa. Nor did he pick up on the fact that JD did the same thing, calling him he or him, but never daddy or any other word denoting kinship. Jennifer, on the other hand, caught on and smirked whenever her two angels did the same. 19 years later, speeding down the I-10 freeway in his shabby Ford F-150 pickup truck, Kenneth wasn't allowed to ride in her BMW, though he paid for it. He wondered again why he'd married her in the first place. "So," she spat out the first words she'd uttered since he'd climbed into the passenger seat of the pickup. "I guess now that you're out of a job, you're going to be out of work all day, huh?" "I'm not out of work," he protested. "Come on, Kenneth! The damn factory is gone!" yelled Jennifer. "What, are you going to stand in the ashes?" "No, Big Eddie came to the hospital and said we'll be paid even if we don't work until the new factory opens," Kenneth protested. "So you think you're just going to sit there and ruin all my fun?" snorted Jennifer. "Spoil what fun?" asked Kenneth as she pulled up in front of their garage. "If you think I'm going to give up going out with you just because you're home, you have another goddamn thing coming," she hissed as she walked into the house. "Wait, what?" asked Kenneth, sure he hadn't heard her correctly. "You heard me, asshole," she hissed, then smiled strangely. "And I guess you didn't, huh?" she asked, smiling even wider. "Well, now that it's out in the open, I guess I don't have to pretend anymore." "Wait, what are you talking about?" asked Kenneth. "Come on, Kenneth, grow up, eh, Peanut?" Jennifer giggled. Like everyone else figured that out years ago. "You're at work, I'm away." Kenneth's head ached, and his vision blurred as he listened to his wife's account of her many infidelities. Behind her, her two angels laughed at him. JC, on the other hand, looked utterly mortified as she listened to her mother berate her father. "Well, pack your shit up and take your two precious little bitches with you," Kenneth finally hissed. "Oh no, honey," Jennifer laughed loudly. No, that's not how it works." "This is a no-fault state. It means I get half of everything, plus custody of the kids. It means you have to pay the mortgage, the car payment, and child support. Oh, and you can kiss your precious little angel goodbye. I'll ever let you see her again." "Go ahead, dumbass, divorce me, I dare you." "Now, if we're done, I have a date with Cecil." "See you later." Kenneth watched in shock as she walked up the stairs, already pulling her cell phone out of her purse. "Hey, Cecil, yeah, dumbass is home. Do you think you can pick me up in about 30? said Jennifer, slamming the door to the master bedroom. "Daddy, I swear I didn't know anything about," whispered JC, sobbing and hugging her father tightly. "Honey, it's going to be okay," Kenneth whispered, hugging the 12-year-old girl tightly. "Nuts!" Jalissa giggled, waddling with her massive bulk out of the kitchen. "It's going to be okay," Kenneth reassured her. Chapter 2. Kenneth gave a strained smile as a car pulled up in front of the house with ghetto music blaring from it. "See ya," Jennifer exclaimed cheerfully, and smirked when Kenneth gave her the finger. "I should make Cecil come here and beat the shit out of you," she hissed hatefully. "I wouldn't advise that if I were you," he agreed easily. "Screw you, asshole," she snarled, unable to think of anything else to say. "Never again, but hurry up, don't keep me waiting," Kenneth said, and went back to the computer screen. The door slammed shut and Kenneth shook his head sadly. With 2 more clicks, all of Jennifer's credit cards were canceled and the balances paid in full. He then increased the amount of the mortgage and car insurance and lowered the deductible on both. The increased insurance premiums were paid from a secret bank account that Jennifer had opened. Kenneth knew about her account. He had known about it for years, but since she only transferred $300 or $400 a month into it, he saw no reason to make a fuss about it. Opening a new bank account in his and his mother's name took a little longer. He wanted his children to be taken care of, even if, according to Jennifer, he wasn't the parent of any of them. He smiled as he transferred $42,580 from Jennifer's secret account to his new account. Finally, he sighed, leaned back in his chair, and picked up the phone. "Hi, Mom," he said. 5 minutes later, Kenneth was stomping up the stairs. Jalissa's door was the first on the left, so he knocked hard on it. "What?" bellowed Jalissa defiantly. "Open the door," Kenneth ordered. "Go away," she barked back. "Okay," Kenneth said and tried the handle. "Get out, oaf," Jalissa giggled as he rattled the handle of the locked door. "Uh-huh," Kenneth said and took a step back. Jalissa screamed in horror as the door shattered into pieces. "I said open the door and I meant open the door," Kenneth growled. "Now get your fat ass up and get in the car. Now." "Screw you! You can't tell me what to do!" the 17-year-old girl shouted, still scared. Kenneth yanked her out of bed by her greasy hair, slapped her twice in the face, and calmly said, "I'm not kidding. Get your fat, lazy ass in the car now." Jadia didn't even wait for her father to knock on the door. She was a coward who hid behind her mom or Jalissa. She rushed down the stairs and got into the back seat of her mom's BMW. JC looked apprehensively at her father approaching. "Come on, get in the car," Kenneth told her quietly. "Yes, sir," JC replied. "Please take care of Pebbles," pleaded JC in her own quiet whisper. "Damn, I forgot about—" "Okay, I'll take care of her," Kenneth promised. Pebbles was JC's cat. She had lived with her since she was 9 years old. She named her after the Flintstones cartoon. Because of their love for the cat, JD and Jalissa constantly tried to hurt her. Therefore, the animal was distrustful of everyone but JC. "Wait, what does that mean?" asked JD incredulously. "I know it does." JC gave her father a strained smile. "Thanks, Mom," Kenneth exclaimed as the girls approached the house. Kenneth went to Huvale, Texaco, and bought 2 5-gallon jerry cans and filled them with gasoline. "Might want to put some newspaper in there," the clerk advised, as Kenneth loaded the 2 canisters into the trunk of the expensive car. "To hell with it," Kenneth smiled. Kenneth walked back to the house, picked up the crate in which they had taken the cat to Dr. Dupre's office for his annual vaccinations, and entered the house. As usual, Pebbles was nowhere to be seen, and she did not answer Kenneth's call. Finally, he pulled out the can of her cat food and closed the lid. He poured the odorous substance onto one of Grandma Jennifer's porcelain plates and waited patiently. Finally, the odor won out, and Pebbles climbed out from behind the couch to survey the situation. "Gotcha, you rotten beast!" Kenneth smiled and put the cat and plate in the drawer. Jalissa hummed irritably as her mother's cell phone switched back to voicemail. "Mom, call me back. I'm at Grandma's. Dad's gone crazy. It's true. Call me," she whispered. "You don't have to whisper. I know you're calling Mom," Bernice snapped back, startling Jalissa. "Why do I have to be here?" Jalissa pounced on the woman. I'm 17. I'm old enough to take care of myself?" "Yes, I'm 18, Jadia retorted, standing behind Jalissa. "Bye," Bernice waved her hand. "You don't want to be here? Then I sure as hell don't want you here." The 2 girls smirked as they headed for the front door. "How are you going to get home?" asked Bernice. "It's 9 miles and I know neither of you have ever walked that far in your life." "No, but you can drive us," commanded Jalissa. "We can, but I'm not going to," Bernice said, and started getting bowls for the stew she was making. "Then how are we going to—" shrilled Jalissa. "I don't know what to do, but I don't care," Bernice said, and set 3 bowls on the table. "JC, Melvin, dinner's ready!" "Excuse me," Melvin ordered, pushing Jalissa aside with force. "Where's mine?" asked Jalissa finally, as JC took her place at the table. "I think your place is where you go, remember? You're old enough to take care of yourselves." "Bye," Bernice said as she waved her hand. "I hate you!" Jalissa shrilled to her grandmother. "How sweet, dear," Bernice smiled. "Bye." Kenneth put a few holes in the gas tank of the BMW and, after much deliberation, a few in the tank of his pickup truck. Then he carried the first of the 5-gallon gas cans upstairs and started on the bedroom he shared with Jennifer. He doused the bed, dresser, and low closet liberally. He sighed as he looked at the 42-inch plasma TV, then shrugged, picked up one of her ridiculous figurines, and tossed it at the expensive TV. When he walked into JC's room and started pouring gasoline on her bedroom, his stomach hurt. He noticed a small framed photograph and picked it up. It showed him and JC posing with a small fish she had caught when he first took her fishing. He carried her downstairs and placed her on the crate. Inside the crate, Pebbles, done with her treat, had already begun to squeal. He went back upstairs and gleefully doused Jadis and Jalissa's rooms with the remains of the first canister of gasoline. Then he simply dumped the canister on Jalissa's bed. He emptied the second canister all over the furniture downstairs. He then took the crate and a small photograph and walked out of the house. He set the crate and the picture at the edge of the driveway and then walked toward the house. He set up the sprinkler and locked it in place, aiming the spray at Ray's house. On the other side, he did the same thing, aiming the spray at Debbie's house. Then he smiled as he looked at the expensive monstrosity that Jennifer had insisted they buy the house he didn't want, didn't love, but had called home for the past 14 years. He opened the front door, flicked a match in the fireplace, and dropped it on the gasoline-soaked oriental rug. Then he closed the door, walked to the edge of the driveway, and waited. When the first fire truck arrived, it was too late. The house was nothing but a ball of flames. Ray's house had already begun to smolder, even though Kenneth had taken care to put a sprinkler on it, so the first fire engine was trying to keep the flames away from Ray's house. Debbie's house was a little farther away, so the second fire engine was helping the first one, which was tackling Ray's house. "What happened?" asked Sheriff Dick Davis as Kenneth stood on the opposite side of the street, holding a shaky box and a small framed photograph. "Set it on fire," Kenneth shrugged. "My wife, Jennifer, and I figured if we burned it down, we'd get the insurance money and then buy a smaller place we could afford." You started this fire?" "Intentionally?" asked Sheriff Dick Davis, making sure Deputy Orville Jackson was close enough to hear Kenneth's confession. "Yeah," Kenneth shrugged. "Took the offspring to my mom's for dinner, and then went to Hoovel's and bought a couple of cans of gasoline and spilled it all over the place. Yeah, made the car too. The goddamn payments were killing us, But damn, I forgot about the truck. See, it's paid for. So when do you think we'll get the insurance money?" "Sir, where's your wife?" asked Dick. "I don't know. She said she didn't want to see him, "So her friend came and got her," said Kenneth, and set the box on the ground. Pebbles' hand was beginning to tire. "Sir, put your hands behind your back, please," Dick said. "Damn smart," Jadiah complained, as she and Jalissa walked down Highway 19 toward their house. "Could have just waited until we ate and he would have picked us up." "He wouldn't have come back for us," Jalissa grinned. "We'd have been stuck until Mom would have come and picked us up." "How much farther do we have to go?" asked Jadiah. "Look around, Jadiah," said Jalissa, pointing to the neighborhood. "Is that anywhere near our house?" "I'm going back," Jadiah decided. Jalissa wanted to go back to her grandmother's house too, but pride wouldn't let her. "Almost like he's glad to be here," Orville remarked as they looked in on Kenneth K. "Yeah, have you figured out what to do with his cat?" asked Dick. "Yep, and here she is," smiled Orville as his sister walked into the station. "Hi, Barney Fife," smiled Wilhelmina Jackson, holding out 2 small pills to her brother. "I would have thought a big cop like ours would know where to get phenobarbital." "I know, call my little sister," Orville smiled. "Thanks, sis." "Yeah, where's that cutie Eric Green?" asked Willie, looking around. "I've got the day off," smiled Dick. "But I'll be sure to tell him you were looking for him." "Better, my dog got a cramp because I gave you the medicine. At least you could have that fine asshole take me out." Willie smiled. She turned to walk out of the station. "And I'm not talking about any McDonald's. It better be Manny's or Touch of Sicily, you hear me?" she shouted, stepping out of the small building. "Do you think we should tell her that Eric is gay?" asked Dick to Orville. "Really?" asked Orville, eyes wide. "No, but he's scared to death of that girl," smiled Dick. "Now, Barney Fife, how are you going to shove that stuff down a cat's throat?" "Watch and learn," replied Orville smugly. He took 2 of the pills and crushed them with the butt of his service revolver. Then he took 3 small containers of coffee creamer and poured their contents onto a small plate. The crushed pills were poured into the plate. Dick grinned as he watched Orville carry its contents to the small cabinet where they had hidden the box. Dick smirked as Orville returned, clutching a bloody hand to his chest. "Got any better ideas?" snapped Orville. "Uh-huh, Lafayette Animal Control is on its way," said Dick. "That's why he's sheriff and you're not," said Officer Mike Stevens, putting antiseptic on Orville's bleeding hand. "Go get your granddaughter," Bernice ordered Melvin, as Jadiah sat at the table eating warmed stew. "The Braves win by 1 ball, it's the top 8, Melvin objected. "Go on, I guarantee you nothing will happen in the 10 minutes you're gone," Bernice said. "I'll watch you and tell you what happened," JC offered. "Tell you what woman, you go after her," Melvin said, already putting on his boots. "Melvin, you know I hate driving at night." Bernice smiled as she watched her husband obediently prepare to fulfill her request. "Uh-huh, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, Melvin said. "Go, Braves!" JC and Melvin shouted happily as Melvin opened the door. "You're all so silly," Bernice smiled. Melvin spotted Jalissa sitting on the side of Highway 19, hunched over. He smiled, strained. She hadn't managed to drive 2 miles before she gave up. He made a sharp U-turn, then pulled up and stopped in front of her. He rolled down the passenger window. "Get in," he commanded. Jalissa didn't say a word, just rose to her feet and got into the car. Melvin watched with a slight perverse satisfaction as Jalissa wiped her tear-drenched face, trying not to let him notice. "Grandma's heating up some stew for you," Melvin said quietly as they pulled up to the house. "Thanks," Jalissa whispered. Cecil was not amused when Jennifer's MasterCard and Visa cards were declined. Grumbling, he pulled out 3 crumpled $20 bills and slapped them onto a small platter the waiter held out. "The bill is $59.19, the waiter said quietly. "Yes?" Cecil spat. "That's 3 20s, isn't it?" "Ah, yes, sir. Very good, sir," the waiter said tautly and walked away. "They expect a tip," Jennifer hissed. "They can expect all sorts of shit, but that doesn't mean I have to give them one, does it?" Cecil spat. "Well, I was going to offer to take it to the Hilton and Towers, but for some reason my cards," said Jennifer, and smiled to herself as the waiter dumped Cecil's change on the table in front of him. "Thank you," Cecil grinned. "Oh, my pleasure, sir." The waiter smiled as Cecil defiantly counted out his change and left the waiter with a penny. "So, what do you want to say?" asked Cecil as they waited for the valet to bring his car around. "I guess I want to say that I know I promised you, but," said Jennifer. "The back seat will do," Cecil said, and opened the door for her. "Tell Animal Control that this is my daughter's cat. Her name is JC, and here's a phone number where they can reach her," said Kenneth, as Orville, with his arm covered in bandages, walked around the cells. "What?" asked Orville incredulously. "The cat belongs to my," repeated Kenneth. "You knew that an hour ago and you didn't say shit?" asked Orville, voice getting louder. "It wasn't an issue an hour ago," Kenneth shrugged. "I'll call her," snapped Orville and staggered away. "I told you, I think he's having fun out there." Dick smiled as Orville muttered something to himself. "Wow, any sign of his wife?" asked Orville. "No, says he doesn't know her friend's name except Cecil," shrugged Dick. "Look, I bet we find out he not only knows the bastard's full name, but also his phone number, address, his mommy's phone number and address, and what shoe size the bastard wears," snapped Orville. "How's the arm?" Dick smiled. Jennifer got out of the car and stared at the charred and smoldering remains of her house in bewilderment. "What the hell happened?" she asked, not expecting an answer. "Shut the door, huh?" ordered Cecil. "What?" asked Jennifer, looking at him incredulously. "Close the door, I'm late," Cecil ordered. You're just going to leave me here?" asked Jennifer. What the hell do you want me to do, huh? Take you home with me?" Cecil grinned. "Yeah, I can see how my baby mama would be all over the place under that shit." "Mrs. K?" asked Officer Becky Winter. "Oh, look at this shit. Hey, officer, you move that car, you hear me?" ordered Cecil. Becky's cruiser was blocking his exit. "You, show me some ID," Becky ordered him. "So, are you Mrs. Jennifer K?" "Officer, what happened to my house?" asked Jennifer. "Please answer the question," Becky snapped back. "Are you Jennifer K?" Yes, I am," Jennifer agreed. "So what happened to my house?" "Jennifer K, put your hands behind your back." "Jennifer K, you have the right to remain silent." Becky began the ritual. Jennifer was in a daze as she was checked in, fingerprinted, searched. She woke up enough to call Becky Zima a lesbian, and then placed in a cell with 3 prostitutes who chatted and laughed with each other in Spanish. "The arraignment will be tomorrow morning," Becky again patiently explained to an infuriated Jennifer K. "That's when bail will be set. Until then, try to get some sleep, huh?" "Why don't you kiss my ass, you dampier?" hissed Jennifer back. In the morning, Jennifer was assigned Donald Pellichet as the pro bono representative. Donald kept an impassive face as Jennifer proclaimed her innocence and looked at her hatefully when Donald explained that her husband had implicated her in their arson scheme for profit. "Really?" Kenneth asked Sophia Kutra, his own pro bono advocate. "Are you saying it's illegal? But I was just doing what my wife told me to do. You see, she's in charge in our family. Ask anyone, and they'll tell you Jennifer is in charge." "You son of a bitch!" yelled Jennifer at Kenneth when they finally saw each other at the St. Elizabeth Parish Courthouse. Kenneth grinned at Jennifer as Donald and the bailiff forcibly restrained her. "You bastard! I'll destroy you!" Jennifer screamed as he was led into the courtroom to Judge Jack Melancon. "Stop being so nice," Kenneth whispered to Sophia Kutra as the defense attorney actively demanded her client be released without bail. "What?" she asked, stunned. "I said, stop being so nice, let me sit where I am," Kenneth said, and she finally looked at the ADA. Adam quickly agreed that Kenneth could remain a guest of the state, and Kenneth was transferred to the Dahard jail to await trial. "So, Mr. K, what's really going on?" asked Sophia. "And yes, it's being recorded." "The system sucks," Kenneth replied calmly. "My wife goes out and has fun, and I'm supposed to just sit back and put up with it. I ask for a divorce, she gets the house, the car, the kids, and I get the bills. She hardly ever worked, but I had to bust my ass to give her everything I could, and that's just too damn bad, right? And now she wants to say it was all my idea to burn down our house so I can sit and rot behind bars while she and her lover or lovers, I don't know how many lovers she has, can all go to the Bahamas together on my dime. No, Mrs. Coutre, leave me behind bars. If I don't work, she won't get a penny of my money, will she?" "Yeah, the system really sucks," Sophia agreed. "My first husband cheated on me, he didn't care, and I busted my ass to get him and myself through law school. Once he gets his degree, he'll tell me he's finally found the one true love of his life, and I'm still paying all the bills he racked up when we were married." "That sucks," Kenneth agreed. "Yeah, but there's a bright side to all of this," Sophia smiled. "I met my husband thanks to that asshole running away from me. And his one true love? Turns out he's HIV positive." "Oh," Kenneth smiled. "Okay, Mr. K, I'll see you in a couple of months." Sophia shrugged and rose to her feet. Chapter 3. Donald Pellichet was more than happy to let Jennifer K go as a client. She had insisted that he not favor her over his other clients. "Hell yeah, I'm right. They pay, bitch," he muttered after another sharp altercation. Dick Davis smiled understandingly as Donald walked out of the police station. "I don't know who she's going to contact, but it ain't me," Donald warned Dick. Jesse Johnson entered the station, listened to Jennifer's explanation, and took her information about her secret account. "Shit, there's at least 40,000 in it already," she said. "Just get me the hell out of here." Jesse entered the information into his laptop, cleared the user ID field, and tried again. "Mrs. K, I don't know how to tell you this, but," said Jesse after a long pause. "Let me see," Jennifer bellowed, clamped her fingers on the keyboard, and screamed with rage when she realized the account was no longer there. "That little son of a bitch," she snarled. "And of course, since the house is in both of your names," continued Jesse. "What house?" screamed Jennifer. "The damned bastard burned it to the ground!" "My point, Mrs. K, is that you hired me as your attorney, but not as your pro bono attorney. Mr. Pellichet was your court-appointed attorney," said Jesse. "My services cost $350 an hour. You do intend to pay me, don't you?" "Fine, just damn fine," Jennifer sighed. "Get that lazy ass back here." "With pleasure," Jesse lied and left the room. "Come on, princess," Becky said, and led Jennifer back to the cell. "I'll make you mine, you hear me, punk?" grinned Jamal Westinghouse as Kenneth sat on his bunk rereading Brave New World for the 100th time. "No thanks," Kenneth replied calmly. "But have a good day." "Damn you to hell!" Jamal yelled, snatching the book out of Kenneth's hands. Kenneth then calmly stomped on Jamal's head until Jamal's body stopped twitching. "Hey boy, you don't have to come at us like that, do you?" complained one of the men. "Eh? Calling me a beggar, huh? Hell, I didn't do anything to you, did I?" "That's right. Didn't do shit for me either, huh? Where were you when homie told me I was his new bitch? Or when he got his hands on my shit, huh?" asked Kenneth. "Shit, I figured you'd get it, know what I mean?" muttered the man. "What the hell?" growled Captain Charles Viejo, seeing the dead body of Jamal Westinghouse lying on the floor. "Slipped and fell, I guess," Kenneth shrugged. "Just slipped," Charles complained. Jennifer was just leaving the courtroom with 5 other women in Bender police custody when a shackled Kenneth K was brought into the courtroom. "What's he doing here?" asked Jennifer to Becky Winter. "They're not going to let him go, are they?" "I don't know exactly. I heard he trampled another prisoner to death." Becky shrugged. Jennifer looked over her shoulder as 3 armed police officers led Kenneth into the courtroom. "Him? You've got to be kidding me! He's a complete idiot!" Jennifer laughed. No, you must be thinking of someone else." "Oh, no, ma'am," said Bernice. "There's no way in hell I'm letting you go to Northside." "Why not?" asked Jadia, swallowing a huge piece of chicken salad sandwich. "Jalissa and I used to go there." "Wow, and look how well you did," Melvin said, earning a slap on the back of the head from Bernice. "No, ma'am, come on, we're going to St. Thomas. It's a great school," Bernice said firmly. "Ha ha, you'll have to wear that stupid uniform," grinned Jalissa. Grinned. "There's nothing wrong with this uniform," said Bernice. "But Grandma, we can't afford this school," complained JC. "Don't worry about that, just leave it to me," said Bernice. "When do you think Mom will come to pick us up?" asked Jalissa. "I mean, they have to know that she had nothing to do with setting the house on fire, right?" Oh, and I'm sure your dad will be out soon too. Bernice reminded the girl that there was another parent to think about. Well, how long has it been? Almost a month, right? Asked Jadia, finishing her sandwich. Yeah, it's been a month, Melvin agreed. A whole month. 4 long weeks of I'm bored, and I have nothing to do, and when is my mommy coming, and… Hush you, but Grandpa's right, said Bernice. What? Asked Jadia, looking at her grandmother. You and Jalissa aren't in school anymore. I know, I went to graduation, said Bernice. Yep, now they're rewarding mediocrity, Melvin said, earning another slap on the back of the head. So, do you think any of you can take initiative? Go out and get a job somewhere? Finished Bernice. What? Asked Jalissa. A job, you know. People get up, get dressed, and go to it every day to make money. You've probably heard of them, said Melvin. It's been in all the papers, hell. I've even heard people talking about the job on TV. You're kidding, right? Grinned Jalissa. No, I'm not kidding, said Bernice. I asked you to help around the house. I don't keep a hotel here with free food and clothes and stuff, but none of you can lift a finger. What about her? Exclaimed Jadia, pointing to JC. Eh? What about her? Asked Bernice, putting her hand on JC's shoulder. Who was that yesterday helping Grandpa cut copper? And helped me change the oil in my car the day before, Melvin cut in. And almost got all the oil all over yourself, Jalissa objected. Whatever. At least she tried. At least she helped. At least she did her part, Melvin said. So you two have about… What do you think, Melvin? What would be fair? 1 week? 2? 2 weeks to get yourselves a job. A real will pay you money to work here job or to call Grandma Moore and see if you can stay with her, said Bernice. What? Are you kidding? Shouted Jadia and Jalissa. No, I'm afraid not, said Bernice. Does anyone want another sandwich? I'll take one, Melvin offered. No, honey, you're not a teenager. Bernice kissed him on the balding top of his head. Can I have another one, please? Asked JC, holding out her plate. Sure, sweetie pie, Bernice smiled. Can I have some more, please? Teased JC Jalissa. Oh no, everyone be very careful. There's a vicious animal on the loose here, warned Melvin as he felt Pebbles rubbing against his leg. Grandpa, it's not! JC laughed as Pebbles rubbed against her bare leg. Okay, one of you can sit down at the computer and start writing your resumes, while the other looks through the classifieds to see what they can find. You'll all switch in an hour, Bernice suggested, as she put the newspaper on the table. Jalissa and Jadia looked at each other shocked. The day of the trial in state of Louisiana v. K&K had been unusually cold, and Kenneth was grateful for the coat his mother had bought for him. Sophia and Donald prudently stood between Kenneth and Jennifer. All rise, the Honorable Harold Monroe presiding, the bailiff announced. Jennifer smiled as Jadia and Jalissa's father entered the courtroom. When Judge Monroe asked if everyone was present and ready to proceed, all parties agreed. Your Honor, if it pleases the court, Donald Pellichet began. Jennifer didn't see a glimmer of recognition, even when Donald insisted on using her maiden name and the names of her 3 children in his motion to keep her and Kenneth's case separate. Harold Monroe recognized Jennifer, though she was no longer the 19-year-old McDonald's employee who had been so impressed with his Mercedes-Benz and Rolex watch. But she'd only been an affair a few years ago. There were at least 100 women between her and now, and none of them would get any preferential treatment. In the interest of time and the budget of the state of Louisiana, your motion is denied. Continue, Mr. Rich. Harold interrupted Donald and motioned for the assistant district attorney to proceed. But I didn't do it, screamed Jennifer, as Adam laid out a theory about how Jennifer and Kenneth planned to defraud Young Insurance Corporation of nearly $300,000 by committing an act of arson. Counsel, if you can't hold your client, warned Harold. Yes, Your Honor. I'm very sorry, Your Honor, said Donald, placing his hand very firmly on Jennifer's leg. Jennifer continued her outbursts and was eventually removed from the courtroom. Your Honor, my client is not disputing the state's version of events, but is asking for leniency. Remember, this is a man who, according to the district attorney, was manipulated and coerced into doing her will by the co-defendant for years. Sophia finally addressed the court after Adam Rich had finished his arguments. And, Your Honor, I ask that my client be released. In her own words, she had nothing to do with this heinous act or the subsequent attempted deception, Donald Pellichet said. The court hereby finds you guilty of aggravated arson under Section 4, subsection, proclaimed Harold Monroe, and was a little surprised when Kenneth smiled upon hearing the sentence of 8 to 12 years. Keep your nose clean, you'll be out in 5 or 6 years, Sophia whispered, and patted her client affectionately on the arm. Bye, Daddy, JC sobbed as Kenneth was allowed to give her a brief hug. Jadia and Jalissa didn't bother to show up for the trial. Grandma Moore was not to be disturbed by such nonsense. Grandma Moore did find it almost unbearable to have two spoiled teenagers on her shoulders at her age, and deeply resented Kenneth K and Kenneth K's mother and father for not taking care of the two brats. But as unbearable and uncomfortable as it was, Jennifer's mother couldn't in good conscience refuse her own grandchildren. "Maybe we should have looked a little better," Jadia whispered to Jalissa. "You can if you want," Jalissa grinned and turned on the television. "No, I mean we have jobs and we could, do stuff," Jadia said. "Yeah, you can if you want," said Jalissa. "But I'm bored sitting here all the time," complained Jadia. "Then go do something," shrugged Jalissa. Melissa Moore burst into the small apartment and stared at her two lazy and insolent grandchildren. It was one thing for these two to be lazy and brash with Kenneth K, whom she despised for being a man, but quite another for them to be lazy and brash around her. "Do you think either of you can get your useless asses off the couch and go take this trash out?" she shouted. Okay, Jalissa complained and rose to her feet. "And you," Melissa barked at Jadis. "Why don't you do something with that ground beef?" "Like what?" asked Jadis, puzzled. "Try cooking it, how about that?" asked Melissa. "I've been on my feet the whole damn day, busting my ass on." Jadia panicked, since she had never cooked a meal in her life, and began sobbing in earnest. "Oh, for crying out loud, stop it!" yelled Melissa. Okay, but I better not hear another EW. I don't like it. What is it from you hear me?" JC fit right in with the 8th graders at St. Thomas Aquinas School. Her grades were good and her attitude was good too. And no one thought it was odd that she lived with her grandparents. There were 2 other kids in her class in a similar situation. Given the opportunity to step out of the shadow of her 2 older sisters, JC excelled in sports. Coach D. Campion wasted no time in contacting Melvin K. and asking if he could enroll JC on the junior varsity basketball team. "Sure, but wait until softball season. She has a cannon arm, I promise you that," Melvin told the excited coach. "But I'm too small," JC objected. "Nonsense," Coach D said. "I've seen you pick up the ball and that girl is at least a foot taller than you." Whoever was sitting in the gym knew where Melvin K sat and knew JCK was his granddaughter. Rebounds were welcomed. Fouls were either loudly contested or loudly called, and points were applauded. "Sit down, Melvin. The people behind you can't see you," Bernice said calmly. "But did you see that?" shouted Melvin. "That girl pushed her on purpose." "I think your grandfather's here," teased Rain Sneed as they left the group. "Yeah," JC smiled proudly. After losing the last game, JC was very quiet on the way home. "What's the matter, sweetie pie?" asked Bernice finally. "I miss Daddy," JC admitted. "Well, Christmas is coming up. Why don't you write him a letter?" suggested Bernice. Suggested Bernice. "Yeah, we can send him that picture of you and your teammates with the city trophy," Melvin enthused. "But I want him to come home," JC whined, for once acting like a girl on the cusp of adolescence. "Me too," Bernice admitted. "Jesus, he may be your daddy, but have you forgotten? He's my little boy." Jennifer didn't fit in at St. Gabriel's school. Because of her beauty, she was targeted by the other inmates. Oh, and the male guards, and a few women, targeted her as well. Her arrogant, bitchy demeanor didn't win her any friends when she first came into the system, and in the prison hierarchy, first impressions are the only impressions. Besides, any sign of weakness was immediately exploited. Her protestations of innocence drew ridicule from the few who actually spoke to her. "But I'm serious!" she shouted. "My crazy husband did this to me!" "Yeah, Sugar Pie, look around. We're all innocents here," laughed one girl. "And most of us are here because some goddamn man has screwed us," another girl offered. That first night, Jennifer began to pray that the next 10 to 15 years would go by quickly. "Shit, I'll be 49 when I get out of here," she cried silently. Chapter 4. Kenneth smiled, strained. He wanted to cry as he read the last letter from his daughter. The picture attached to the letter showed a young woman just entering adulthood. He wanted to cry looking at the picture, but tears were a sign of weakness, and weakness was dealt with very quickly in Angola. JC stood dressed in her Clark's drive-in waitress uniform, long brown hair falling in masses of curls around her, a cheeky smile shining on her face as she balanced a tray of food in one hand. "God, baby, you're so beautiful," Kenneth murmured, glancing at the picture again. He remembered taking JC to a friend's birthday party held at the rink in Flowers. 9-year-old JC was nervous about the party. "What if I fall?" she asked. "Then you'll fall," said Kenneth. "But I know you'll fall, say so what? And get up and do it again." JC did fall, got up and tried again. By the end of the party, she was begging Kenneth to take her with him the following Saturday. And by the end of the school year, she was begging for a pair of inline skates for her birthday. "Do you know how to skate?" asked John Clark of the pretty 16-year-old girl. "Yes, sir, my dad taught me," JC smiled proudly. "I have my own, see?" She pulled a pair of skates out of her backpack. He nodded in agreement, then looked at the application form she had filled out. "It says here that you go to St. Thomas Aquinas High School, correct?" asked John. "Yes, sir. I have a 3.8 grade point average," replied JC, flashing her beautiful smile again. "Good, good. Now let me tell you how this place works," said John, putting her statement aside. "You mean I got the job?" asked JC, panting with excitement. "Well, we'll try you out, see how you do," John agreed. She almost didn't make it through the first night. John watched through the window as his new employee spun, tumbled, and pirouetted across the concrete pad. "Damn kid's playing there!" he muttered to Nancy, the head cook. "No, she's not playing," Nancy replied. "She's having fun, but look, I bet you $100 she'll get the biggest tip today." "Oh, shit!" shouted John, as JC, leaping over the wooden bench, rushed back to the kitchen diner. "2 cheeseburgers, 1 without pickles, 1 without onions, large fries," JC squeaked, as she stopped in front of the soda fountain and started making a soda. "See?" said Nancy. "She's having fun, but she's not playing." "Uh-huh," John said, not entirely convinced. The other 2 waitresses moved out of her way as she carried the tray with her order past. "If she spills it," John warned as JC raced back toward the customer truck. "If she spills anything, I'll eat it." Nancy smiled as JC spun in place at the last second and set the tray on the truck window. John watched JC prepare to give her change, then smiled as the truck driver raised his hand, stopping her. "Look, I bet she has the most tips," Nancy said, and held out another order to one of the other waitresses. Nancy received a $100 bill from John. Within a month, JC was already teaching the other girls to skate more efficiently, more safely, and with more skill. Kenneth looked at her again and frowned. He didn't like the way the uniform showed off her small tummy. The t-shirt didn't reach the waistband of her shorts. He also didn't like the fact that his little girl was skating with her backside sticking out of the short shorts that were part of the uniform. "Can't do shit about it," he sighed bitterly and put the picture in his Bible. The noise level in Angola was close to deafening, but over time Kenneth had learned to shrug it off. He looked around the dimly lit room inside. Angola had been the last place he could imagine himself when this story began over 4 years ago. But here he was, slowly awaiting either death or freedom. Jamal Westinghouse had friends. One of the men who sat in his cell the day Jamal was killed ran into one of Jamal's friends and told him what had happened. So when Kenneth K. arrived in DeQuincy, Lamont Harrison was already waiting for him. Kenneth didn't know why this almost ugly, muscular man had targeted him, but he knew he had no intention of tolerating it. Kenneth sat down and stabbed his fork into the unappetizing slop. "This is shit," he announced loudly to everyone at the table. He took a bite and grimaced. "I'm not eating that shit," he declared, stood up and threw the tray at the unsuspecting Lamont. Before Lamont could get to his feet, Kenneth grabbed the man's head in his hands and twisted viciously. "Mr. K," the warden pronounced. "Quite remarkable, I think. 94 prisoners and not a single person saw what happened. As I said, I only got to my feet and," said Kenneth. Yes, I know, Mr. K. You just couldn't eat what we call food, I see, Mr. K. We'll see if you like the food better in Angola, Mr. K," the warden sighed. Kenneth looked at the picture of his youngest daughter again and smiled sadly. He held up a picture of his older daughter Jadia and her 2 children, both boys and both biracial. After her 3rd pregnancy, Jadia seemed to remember she had a father and had called JC to get Kenneth's mailing address. Holy shit, did she graduate from high school? Thought Kenneth as he read or tried to read one of her letters. The handwriting was deplorable, the grammar was intolerable, and most of the words that were longer than 2 syllables were misspelled. But she sent him letters, she wrote to him. And every letter she signed, "Love you and miss you, JD." He glanced at the last picture and cringed. According to his mother, when JD gave birth to Robert, she had started sending JD $100 a month, but stopped when she found out JD was spending the money on tattoos instead of food. Robert and Samuel, huh? Kenneth chuckled, knowing that Jennifer was supposed to hate him. Jennifer should have hated the fact that she had become a grandmother, and hated that her daughter was giving her children relatively common names. Kenneth sat down and began writing a response to JC's letter. JC's letter was on its way. He had written her very short letters. If JC's letters were any indication, long letters would only confuse her. He debated with himself once more whether it was time to write to Sophia Kutra, his lawyer. "My dear JC," he scribbled, I suppose now is as good a time as any to be completely honest with both you, JD, and Mrs. Sophia Kutra about what really happened that night. Better have at least one parent present at her high school graduation, he thought to himself. Jennifer Kay barely looked up as she was led into the courtroom, paying no attention to either Donald Pellichet's greeting or Sophia Kutra's. "Am I back for dinner?" she asked at last. "That's exactly what we're trying to accomplish, Mrs. Kay," Donald smiled strainedly. "We're trying to get you to your own home in time for dinner." She raised her head, then looked at the other lawyer. 5 years of prison life had cast a fog over her. One day merged with another, one noise merged with another, one smell merged with another. There were no hard lines to indicate separation. "What?" she asked. Kenneth Kay confessed. "He set the fire of his own free will. He cleared you of any involvement," Donald said. "That's exactly what I tried to tell you 5 years ago," Jennifer hissed, bitterness and anger building up in her over 5 years. 5 years. 5 long years and now you're willing to believe me? Payback's a bitch, isn't it? Kenneth laughed as he was led past her, heavily shackled, 2 armed guards leading him. "You bastard!" Jennifer hissed, venom spraying from her lips. "Mrs. Kay, please calm down," Donald advised. "You want to look as prim and proper in front of Judge Hill as possible." "To hell with that and to hell with you too," Jennifer hissed. "All rise," the bailiff proclaimed. Jennifer looked hatefully at Kenneth as he very calmly and clearly laid out the details of that night, including Jennifer's impromptu confession of Jennifer's multiple infidelities and the behavior of their 3 children. "So, Mr. Kay, are you saying that Mrs. Kay had no knowledge or involvement in either the aggravated arson or the subsequent attempt to defraud Young Insurance?" asked Donald. "No, I did not participate," smiled Kenneth. "And in fact, Mr. Pellichet, there was no attempt to defraud Young Insurance. You can check with them. There were no claims." "Hell, I knew there was no way in hell they'd pay up." "If I may, counselors?" asked Judge Stephen Hill. "Mr. Kay, why now? Why are you revealing all of this now?" "Honestly," replied Kenneth, "I was really thinking about taking this to the grave with me. To hell with the bitch. For 19 years, I busted my ass for her and her damn kids. She knew they weren't mine and laughed in my face about it. But our youngest daughter is graduating from high school in a few months, and I'd love to be there. But I know there's no way in hell that's going to happen, but at least her mom could be there." "Very noble of you, Mr. Kay," Judge Hill said dryly. "So what now?" asked Jennifer as Judge Stephen Hill left the courtroom. "Now we await his decision," said Donald. What decision?" "The bastard told him I had nothing to do with," hissed Jennifer. "Yeah, now we just have to wait and see if he believes him or not," said Sophia. "Remember, he's a convicted felon," Donald said sharply. "All rise," the bailiff announced, and Judge Stephen Hill returned. Kenneth Kay was shivering. The van was unheated. "Bastards have a bad habit of dying when you're around them," Frederick Parr smiled, showing a gold tooth. Kenneth answered nothing. Frederick Parr held a 12-gauge double-barreled shotgun pointed at his chest. "Yeah, all sorts of bastards suddenly up and dying and all that," Frederick continued, smiling broadly. "Hell yeah, don't let that little white boy fool you," the second guard sniggered. "That's one tough bastard." "Ain't that right?" asked Frederick. Malcolm shifted his gaze from one guard to the other, then to Kenneth. "So what did you do after all?" he asked finally. Kenneth looked dumbly at Malcolm, then shrugged, turned his head and continued to stare straight ahead. No, you bastard, you know what you did. "Talk to me," Malcolm demanded, sure that the guards were lying, just testing whether he was gullible enough to believe their bullshit. "You'll learn," Kenneth finally said in a voice barely above a whisper. "People who run their mouths don't last long in Angola. Bastards who know when to keep their mouths shut have a much easier life." Bitterness was Jennifer's main companion, and she dutifully took it with her everywhere she went. Martyrdom made frequent appearances alongside her, too. Jadia greeted her mom with enthusiastic squeals and genuine happiness, but she didn't have room for her mom. She lived in an apartment with a large space. Jalissa and her girlfriend were in the process of being evicted from yet another roach-infested apartment when Jennifer found them, so there was no room for Jennifer in Jalissa's house either. Jennifer didn't want to live with Jalissa and Rudy, though. Rudy was a loud, arrogant, obnoxious Puerto Rican girl who had several needle marks on both arms. JC was still living with Bernice and Melvin while she was in high school. "Oh, no, you can always come and visit your daughter," Jennifer hastened to assure Bernice. "No, I wouldn't dream of separating you two." "So where are you staying?" That question made Jennifer realize that she had no room at Kay's house. So Jennifer turned to her mother for help. "Oh, great, just freaking great," Melissa complained. Barely rid of your two offspring, and now you come here to find a place to sleep? Yes, Mom, Jennifer shrilled. I'm so damn sorry, Mom. I just got out of jail, Mom, remember? As soon as I get a job, I'm out of here, okay? Yeah, your two brats said the same thing. Still waiting for one of them to get off their ass and get a real job, Melissa grinned. Malcolm Jennings was sure Frederick and the other guard were lying. Kenneth was the quiet, non-confrontational one. Right, Malcolm smirked, squinting at the picture of JC in her waitress uniform. I told that guy, didn't I? Asked Frederick to Kenneth. There was no wide grin on Frederick's face now as he pointed the shotgun at Kenneth. Gee, sir, I don't know what you're talking about. What happened? Asked Kenneth, feigning ignorance. Why, here, found him in the shower. He's been hurt, said Frederick. Oh, that's terrible, said Kenneth. God, I hope you catch the horrid man who did it, sir. Cut the crap, Kay. I'm only looking for one reason, just one good reason to pull that damn trigger, Frederick hissed at an expressionless Kenneth Kay. Ooh, hey, Snow Bunny, what's your name, huh? Cecil smiled what he hoped was a seductive smile as JC pulled up next to his car window. Sir, could you turn the music down, please? Asked JC, ignoring the man's question. You're disturbing our other customers. Oh, hey, to hell with that! I have the right to listen to whatever I want, Cecil bellowed. Bye, JC said, turned and galloped away. Mr. John, I asked him to turn the music down and he started swearing at me, said JC. Oh? Said John, slammed the door of the diner and stomped toward the car. John firmly told Cecil that he had two choices, turn off the music or leave. Grumbling and muttering threats, Cecil opted to leave, looking hatefully at the little white bitch whizzing past toward the next latecomer. So, what's the biggest tip you've ever gotten? Asked Terry, a slender blonde, lighting a cigarette during a break. Me? A guy gave me $10 if I could jump on the bench out front and not drop his hot fudge sundae, smiled JC. The guy offered me $50 if I'd give him my disgusting underwear after my shift. Vanessa, a petite African-American woman in her 20s, admitted. You, squeaked JC. What did you do? What do you think? Gave it to him, Vanessa shrugged. You? Oh, Vanessa, really? Squealed JC. What? Vanessa shrugged. Hell, the most I ever got was $5, Terry admitted. Oh no, he's back, Vanessa said as Cecil's loud knocking was heard. Cecil whined as he saw a powerful man approaching his car. Man, listen, all I want to do is eat, okay? He angrily barked at John. And I told you to turn that shit off or get out, John yelled back. Fine, there you go, satisfied? Cecil spat, turning off the music. Now send that little white girl with the brown hair over here and take my order. No, I'm standing right here. You can give me your order. John smirked as he watched JC and Vanessa rush past, trying to show off to each other. Cecil watched as the two girls completed their rounds, picking up empty trays and trash from various machines. Sir? Asked John loudly, catching Cecil's attention. Yes, give me a burger, everything on it, and a diet soda water, Cecil ordered. Fries? Asked John. With fries? Asked Cecil. If you pay for it, yes, said John. Then no, said Cecil. JC walked tiredly to her car. It had been a leisurely night, and for her, leisurely nights were even more tiring than tense nights. At least on busy nights she could move. Stopping, starting to move, and stopping again took a lot more energy out of her. Hey, bitch, I need to talk to you, Cecil growled and reached for her. On adrenaline, she snatched a can of pepper spray from her purse. Cecil shrieked as the poisonous spray hit his eyes. Blinded, he reached out to punch JC and knock the horrible canister out of her hands. JC didn't let the can out of his hands until Cecil wheezed, squirming in agony, unable to breathe. I called the police, John shouted, waving the gun. Go call your grandparents, let them know you'll be home a little late. Melvin was already out of bed and dressed when Bernice hung up the phone. Be careful not to speed, Bernice warned. My granddaughter is in trouble and all you're worried about is me speeding? Gasped Melvin. Melvin stood and listened as Sheriff Dick Davis took everyone's statements. Unfortunately, since nothing had actually happened other than Cecil raising his hand to JC, there wasn't much that could be done. So you're saying she has to let him rape herself before you can do anything? Asked Melvin angrily to the cop. No, what I'm saying is that if he did have a hand in her, we could charge him. But apparently your granddaughter pulls the trigger too fast, so, explained Dick patiently. To Cecil, on the other hand, Dick said, You bother her again and I'll be on your ass like stink on shit, you understand? Cecil didn't answer, only groaned as the EMT finished washing out his eyes. It's going to sting for a while, but you'll be able to drive, the medic finally said. Yeah, sure, sounds great, JC said, and hung up the phone. How's your mom, honey? Asked Bernice, trying not to give away her disapproval. Fine, I guess, shrugged JC. Says he wants to take me out to dinner to celebrate graduation, you know. Oh, that's nice, Bernice said, trying to sound chipper. Manny's Mexican food, it's really good there, JC said, and got ready to leave. Be careful, have fun, love you, Bernice said. JC looked into the living room and smiled. Melvin was lying on the couch snoring. Pebbles was lying on his chest and snoring too. Grandma, bring me the camera, JC whispered. What? Melvin shook as the flash of the camera startled him. Sorry, Grandpa, JC smiled. Forgot to turn off the flash. Damn animal, JC, get your horrible cat away from me, Melvin complained. Oh, I would. If I had a cat, JC laughed, lovingly stroking the cat's belly. After kissing Melvin and Pebbles, JC walked out of the house. I hate cats, Melvin muttered, sitting down. We should throw that thing outside, let the coyotes have it. Yeah, the cat looks scared, Bernice smiled. Now go wash your hands, dinner is almost ready. Where is JC going? Asked Melvin. To dinner. With his mother, said Bernice, pronouncing the word mother as if it were vulgar. Cecil smiled lightly. He had run into Jennifer before and vaguely remembered her. Yes, wait till you see my daughter, you'll like her, Jennifer enthused as they pulled up in front of Manny's restaurant. Wow, does she look anything like her mom? Asked Cecil, nonchalantly grabbing Jennifer by one of her breasts. No, not really. Well, I guess she does, laughed Jennifer. I mean, put some long brown hair on me and I think you'll get it, said Jennifer. Probably seen her, works in that. Oh, what's it called? That cafe? Clark's? Asked Cecil. There it is, said Jennifer, poking him in the muscular chest. Real long curly hair? Asked Cecil, pulling his 9mm out of the car's console compartment. Yeah, what do you need it for? Asked Jennifer, noticing the gun. Just do it, Bunny, you know what I'm saying? Cecil smiled encouragingly. Hell, you never know what kind of ignorant bastards come to places like this, know what I'm saying? JC walked into the building, saw her mother sitting at her desk, and started walking towards her. She stopped when she saw Cecil sitting next to her mother, smiling evilly at her. Hey, Mom, what's he doing here? I thought it was just going to be the two of us, asked JC. It was, replied Jennifer, smiling happily. But I kind of bumped into him. It's Cecil, he's my old boyfriend, and I just thought, you know? Cecil smiled even wider, leaning back so that JC could see the butt of his gun. Oh, hi, exclaimed JC, spotting Bobby Corvaros, one of the waitresses in Manny's restaurant. Mom, I'll be right back. This girl and I went to high school together. She graduated last year. Hi, Bobby, said JC, walking over and hugging a surprised Bobby. Call the police, please, she whispered urgently in Bobby's ear. That man at my table has a gun. What? Asked Bobby as JC smiled broadly. I know, she said loudly. I'm so happy to see you. Bobby, we don't have time. You play and chat with your little friends, Manny ordered his daughter. Oh, okay, sorry, I'll talk to you later, JC said loudly. Please, she whispered to Bobby. Bobby nodded and rushed into the kitchen. Have you ever eaten here? Asked JC, picking up the menu and looking through it. Yeah, but years ago, before your father decided to cheat on me and send my ass to jail, Jennifer spat out, still feeling bitter. He's still in there, JC reminded her mother calmly. And I sure as hell hope he dies in there, Jennifer said angrily. So, the number 12? Have you ever had one of those? Asked JC. Ma'am? Asked Officer Eric Green. Is there a problem? Yes, officer, this man has a gun and I know for a fact that he is a convicted felon and is currently awaiting trial for a weapons violation, said JC, smiling at a stunned Cecil. Sir, put your hands where I can see them and slowly stand up, Eric said, placing his hand on the butt of his service revolver. You little bitch, Cecil hissed. So, Mom, JC smiled, looking at a pale Jennifer. Are you supposed to socialize with other criminals? What? Finally mumbled Jennifer. Did I say you have to socialize with other criminals since you just got out of jail? Asked JC loudly. Really? You hate me that much? Jennifer growled at her daughter. Talking about my daddy like that? You hope he dies in prison? Yes, Mom, I think so, JC said as she stood up. You know he's not even your dad, Jennifer grinned and stood up at Eric's request. You know what, Mom? JC smiled. I may not have his blood flowing in my veins, but I have his heart beating in my chest. If I go out, I'll be looking for you, Cecil growled at JC. How sweet, JC smiled sweetly. Officer, you did hear him making threats, didn't you? Yes, ma'am, I heard, Eric replied grimly. Bye, Mom, thanks for a wonderful dinner, JC said and waved to Bobby. Chapter 5. JC stood up, walked across the stage and accepted her diploma. She smiled at the three people who applauded when her name was called, and then returned to her seat. After the ceremony, she hugged Jadia, Melissa, and Jalissa and thanked them for coming. "Like I'm going to miss my granddaughter going to college?" exclaimed Melissa. "Where's?" started to ask Jalissa, but then she remembered that Rudy had been put into hospice last week. "Robbie and Sammy?" she quickly asked Jadia. "They're at Eric's, it's his day off," Jadia smiled. "Oh no, don't tell me he sent them fishing again?" JD smiled. Jalissa started coughing and JC turned and watched her, greatly concerned. Rudy was in the last stages of his illness, and Jalissa didn't seem to be far behind. Finally, with watery eyes, Jalissa stopped her wet wheezing and gave a strained smile. "So, who's ready for Red Lobster?" said Melissa with fake cheerfulness. "Maybe we are. I know it's going to be pizza tonight," laughed Jadia. "Eric always says he's going to bring home lots of fish, and then they come home with all kinds of stories about how they almost caught one, but..." "What did you expect?" said JC. "He's a lover, not a fisherman." "Ooh, I can't wait to use that on him," laughed Jadia. "Jalissa, why don't you ride with me?" asked JC, placing a loving hand on her sister's arm. "Great," Jalissa smiled, exposing a gap where one of her teeth used to be. JC led them through the parking lot until they came to an old Buick. "I can't believe you still have that thing," Jalissa laughed. JC reminded her, "I gave it to you." "But Rudy said it was better to take 2,000, remember?" "Uh-huh," Jalissa said, losing her smile. "Don't even think we had that money for a whole week before it ran out." JC took off her robe, tossed it and her cap into the trunk of the car, and got in. "Hey, JC," asked Jalissa as they pulled onto Johnson Street. "Yeah?" asked JC. "I know I've never told you this, but I love you," said Jalissa. JC waited for an answer. The last time Jalissa said she loved her, she followed it up with a request for money. When JC refused, Jalissa hadn't spoken to her sister in almost a year. The next time she saw her sister was at her grandmother's funeral. Melvin was the first to die. A massive heart attack. "Died watching the Saints," Bernice smiled through her tears. "On 3, JC whispered to the man in the booth. 1, 2, 3, go Saints." Bernice followed 3 months later. The doctor said the complications were due to pneumonia, but JC knew her grandmother had died of a broken heart, too lonely with her Melvin to go on living. And at the funeral, Jalissa and Rudy had the nerve to ask about the will, if there was one. "So if there's no will, everything is divided 3 ways?" asked Rudy. "1, hissed JC, looking at the insufferable woman. "This is not the time or place for that kind of talk. 2, you're not family, you're an outsider, so it's none of your business. And 3, there's a will. The will be decided in 3 weeks." Jalissa and Rudy jumped out of the house, loudly proclaiming, "How dare JC say that Rudy is not family and that Rudy is an outsider? I'm more family than you damn well ever will be, you hear me?" yelled Rudy at JC. JD refused to join Jalissa and Rudy, squeezing JC's hand tightly. JC smiled, realizing that JD was actually terribly afraid of Rudy, but courageously deciding to do the right thing. At the reading of the will 3 weeks later, Rudy stormed off again when Sophia Kutra read that Jalissa would only get $10,000. Jadia nodded appreciatively as she too was handed a check for $10,000. "And to our granddaughter, JC Alice K," Sophia continued. JC's softball scholarship paid for her tuition, and JC never needed anything while she lived with her grandparents. She was proud to buy the frivolous things that teenage girls buy with her money earned by working at Clark's, and her grandparents were proud to buy her the necessities. Melvin and Bernice had left a house, 2 cars, and nearly $800,000 in CDs, stock certificates, and their savings accounts. "JD, I don't need all that," JC told her sister. "You have 2 kids, take some of it." "I'll take Grandma's car, mine is about to fall apart," JD said. "No, I mean take some of that money," JC pleaded. "I'll tell you what, JC," said Jadia. "Grandma and Grandpa wanted you to have them. Keep them in your possession. If I ever need them, I'll come to you, okay?" JC made the same offer to Jalissa, with Rudy making all the decisions. "So how much did they leave you?" demanded Rudy. "Rudy, please, this is between me and my sister," said JC patiently. Bitch, it's about your sister, me, and you," shouted Rudy. JC finally decided that Grandpa's car was worth $2,000, and if neither Jalissa nor Rudy wanted Grandpa's car, she would offer them the Blue Book value of it. "I'll bring the money tomorrow," JC said, and walked out of the dirty trailer where Jalissa and Rudy lived. Kenneth smiled as he looked at the graduation picture. "Boy, I really have a pretty girl," he said aloud, then put the picture aside and read her letter. It saddened him that Jennifer, either out of spite or out of genuine emotion, had informed JC that he, Kenneth Allen Kay, was not her real father. "I don't care," JC wrote in her long, flowing handwriting. "To me, you have always been my daddy. You have always been the man I love, and I will call you daddy until the day I die." Jadia had also been told that Kenneth was not her father, but she only shrugged her shoulders, which made her mother angry. "Don't you even want to know who your father is?" shrieked Jennifer. "I know who my father is," said Jadia, and continued chopping bananas for the banana nut bread she was making. "My father is Kenneth K., a man who gave up several of his hopes and dreams to provide for his family. Did you know he had a scholarship to play baseball and several teams were negotiating with him?" "So?" asked Jennifer, not paying attention. "Yeah, and he was also a really good bass player. Grandpa hated rock and roll, but even he said Daddy was really good and probably could have been a big star or something. But he gave up his toys and went and got a real job when he was going to be a daddy," Jadia continued, stirring sugar in a bowl. "Tell me, Mom, did you sacrifice anything for us?" "My father, whoever he is, does he give up anything for us? So unless my father is dead and left me $1 million, I don't care at all who he is." Kenneth set aside JD's short, poorly written note and smiled at the pictures she'd attached to her note. Her fiancé was a police officer in Bender, Louisiana, and clearly proud of his uniform. Jadia posed with Eric Green wearing a police officer's cap. In the photo, she laughs as Eric tries to take the cap away from her. In the next picture, she is pictured with Robert and Samuel. Robert was dressed in a child's police officer uniform, and Samuel was dressed in a child's firefighter uniform. He looked again. In both pictures, Jadia was wearing long sleeves that hid her tattoos. "Good girl," he smiled. He realized from her note that Jennifer had told her he wasn't her father, but Jadia didn't care. He was her father, as far as she was concerned. "Good girl," he repeated. The letter from Jalissa came as a complete surprise, and he carefully pulled 3 pieces of paper out of the envelope. Apparently, Jalissa didn't trust her own handwriting. The letter was unsealed. He grinned to himself. She had chosen a very bold font. "I'm afraid my eyes aren't what they used to be?" he asked himself. "Dear Kenneth," was how her letter began. And even though he knew he wasn't her biological father, the fact that she didn't address him as father, daddy or daddy, hurt him. "So my mom came and said you're not my dad," the letter continued. "I'm so sorry. I can't think of another man I would be proud to have as my father." He read on. In the letter, she apologized for her actions of the past years, for her disrespect, for her attitude toward him. Sign of weakness or not, he allowed himself to let a few tears fall when she informed him she was in hospice care. "No one but me has infected me with this shit," the letter read. "I stuck that needle in my arm, not you, not Mom, not Rudy, just me," the letter continued. "Kenneth, I know I've been a terrible daughter, and you've never been anything but a good, loving father," Jalissa wrote. He smiled strangely. She signed the letter, "Love, Jalissa." "Dear Jalissa," he wrote. Jalissa smiled as the nurse's aide read the letter to her. She was too weak to hold the pages in her hands, too weak to lift her head enough to read the letter. "Love, Daddy," the nurse's aide finished the letter. "Really?" asked Jalissa. "He signed it with love, Daddy?" "Right here, you can see for yourself," said the nurse, holding out the letter. "Again?" pleaded Jalissa. "Shall I read it again?" "All right," smiled the young woman. "Show me," Melissa demanded. "Show me what?" asked Jennifer. "Show me." "Show me where the hell you've been looking for a job. If I was looking for a job, I'd have found something by now," shouted Melissa. "No one's getting hired," yelled back Jennifer. "Everywhere I've been, I've just been told thank you, we'll be in touch. And that's it." "You've been to Babbage? Have you been to that new place? Oh, what the hell is that on 52nd? Asked Melissa. "I told you, they see the F on the application and don't even bother reading the rest." "Oh, for crying out loud, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Fill out a damn application and ask for a job, huh?" Melissa said, and stomped into the kitchen. "And let me guess, now you expect me to make you dinner, huh?" Jennifer lifted her now rather plump body off the couch and sprinted into the kitchen. No, I'll do it all myself. What do we have?" asked Jennifer. "I've been here all day and you haven't once looked at what we have?" asked Melissa, her anger quite evident. Jennifer quickly straightened up the turkey and then placed a plate in front of her mother, after which she plated some for herself. After finishing their meal, both women returned to the living room to watch television. Melissa had deliberately chosen a program she knew Jennifer wouldn't like, a prime-time investigation. "At your house, you can watch whatever you want." "At my house, we watch what I want." Melissa smirked and turned up the volume. Kenneth walked into the brightly lit room without much hope. He was reintroduced to the 3 people who, by the state of Louisiana, were to evaluate him and his chances for a productive life outside of the prison system. He sat and silently regarded two unpleasant-looking men and an unattractive woman. The woman, even in her 60s, still sported the long hair of her youth and still used the horribly outdated jargon of the bygone Woodstock era. He gave detailed answers to their questions, laying it all out as thick as he could, knowing there was virtually no chance of release. There were 3 unexplained deaths in his file. Actually, there were 6 deaths that could be attributed to him, but he wasn't going to volunteer that information. But he was getting some sort of morbid satisfaction from playing the role of Pious Petey for them. "Well, sir," he said, turning to one of the men, "my mom and dad died, and I wasn't allowed to go to their funeral, so I guess the first thing I'd like to do is visit their burial site, you know? My middle daughter? She's terminally ill. I just found out yesterday she doesn't have long to live in this world, so I'd really like to see her, say goodbye to her. And I have 2 grandchildren, 2 boys. I'd really like to see them." He almost smiled. The woman devoured him with pleasure, nodding her head in agreement. But even if she had believed his ramblings, she would have been changed by 2 bureaucrats in ill-fitting suits. "Well, sir, the mattress factory? I don't know if they'll take me back. After all, it's been what? 9 years? Kenneth shook his head. "Geez, I don't even know what jobs there are out there. Let's see, I'm 48 now, and I really don't know what I'd do. I guess janitor or something like that is the best I can hope for, right?" For almost an hour, Kenneth answered the questions, fighting the urge to just tell the 3 paper peddlers what they could do with papers, with each other, and with their mothers. "Thank you, Mr. K," one of the men finally said, and he was led out of the room. "I hope you get out of here, Mother. It's all unhealthy and shitty having your ass in here," Frederick Parr said without smiling. "You and I both know I don't have a snowball's chance in hell they'll ever let me out of here, so don't even waste your breath wishing it," Kenneth said as they walked down the dimly lit hallways. JC pulled herself together, then gathered her laptop case and purse and got out of the car. Through the smoked glass doors of Young Insurance, she saw a bored woman sitting at a desk. Her blouse was too tight and unbuttoned 3 buttons, revealing a lacy red bra. The woman also had several tattoos that were clearly visible through the 2 see-through blouse. JC was glad that JD had come to her and asked to borrow some money to remove some of the tattoos. "Not the flowers," JD smiled. "Eric likes to eat at the garden." "Too much information," laughed JC. "How much do you need?" JC smiled at the receptionist and felt slightly perplexed when she looked up, shifted her gaze to her, then returned JC's smile. "Hello, can I help you?" asked Michelle Ruiz. "Yes, JCK? Are you here to see Elizabeth?" "Elizabeth Baggett?" offered JC. "Miss Baggett?" said Michelle, pressing the button. "Yes?" a metallic voice asked. "JCK is here to see you," said Michelle. "Please send her back," said the voice. "Down the hall, first door on the right," Michelle offered, showing a long, brightly painted fingernail. "Thank you," JC said, and followed the woman's directions. As she entered the office, she realized why Michelle had done a double take. On the other side of the desk sat her twin. "You went to St. Thomas Aquinas High School," JC said, smiling even wider. "I remember everyone always asked if you were my older sister." "I can see why," Elizabeth smiled even wider. "But I'm sorry, I don't remember." "There's no reason for that," JC laughed. "I was an 8th grader when you were a senior." "Go on, Avenger," Elizabeth smiled. "And let me see, you're here." "Of course you hear it 100 times a day. I'm looking for a job." "Just graduated from ULL, Business Administrator 3.92, said JC, pulling out her resume. "Keep it here," Elizabeth said, sitting back down in her seat again. "Printed it out from the email you sent me." "There was another girl who kept getting asked if we were sisters," said JC, sitting down in her chair. "Madison Marcoloni?" asked Elizabeth. "Yes, people always confused us, even though I had very short hair back then and she had long, straight hair." "Yes, that's right, Madison," smiled JC. "Okay, now let's see." Elizabeth smiled, taking JC's resume in her hands. "Worked at the Clark for 6 years? That's impressive. Seriously, I mean, I see multiple resumes. There's 10-15 job openings, and I ask myself, why would I hire you? You're just going to quit in a month or 2, you know? What can I say? I loved working at the Clark, JC admitted. But I didn't go through 4 years of college to ride around in shorts in the winter, you know? "Oh, I know who you are," laughed Elizabeth. "Wow, you're that girl who jumps on the benches out front." "Yeah, that's me," laughed JC. "Have you ever wiped yourself?" asked Elizabeth. "A couple times. One time I had a whole pile of ice cream and I didn't put one of them all the way down and felt it slipping and tried to fix it." They all ended up scattered all over the place, smiled JC. The guys felt so bad for me that they got out of the car and cleaned everything up before I even came back with a replacement ice cream. I got a $20 tip for that. Well, I'm afraid it's going to get a little boring around here, Elizabeth smiled. No, ma'am, JC smiled. There's a skate park in Flowers. It's mostly for skateboarders, but I go out there and show them what a girl can do. And on Sundays, I race motocross. Believe me, I don't miss a thing. Motocross? Asked Elizabeth, eyes wide. JC had discovered her dad's motocross trophies and begged Melvin to tell her about her dad's motorcycle racing. Then they heard that there would be a race at Jack's Creek, and JC begged Melvin to take her to see it. The sun was scorching, the track was dusty, the kiosks were out of sodas and bottled water, the noise was deafening, and JC loved it. Here's Class 125, Melvin said. That's the class your dad raced in. They used to be called animals. Those dumb kids don't have the sense to realize they could get hurt. JC watched as the 14 boys roared around the track for 3 laps, kicking, scratching, and screaming, fighting for position. Oh my God! Screamed JC, as one biker narrowly missed landing on another, making the highest jump at breakneck speed. I'm going to do it, JC told her grandfather firmly, as they rode home that ill-fated Sunday. Melvin looked at the tanned girl and nodded his head. He knew he couldn't talk her out of it, and Grandma wouldn't like it. But she wasn't going to talk JC out of it either. First, he tried to buy her an old Honda 100. The 14-year-old looked at the bike, then glanced at Melvin in disgust. Where are the flowers in the basket? She asked. I mean, really. If you're going to give me a motorcycle for a little girl, you might as well buy everything you need for it, huh? So he agreed and bought her a 1998 Yamaha YZ 125. Yeah, it's a little older, he said. It's perfect, JC said, and then set about helping her grandfather take it apart. They bored out the piston, put a sleeve in the exhaust, bought wider handlebars, lighter rims, and then waited for the next Sunday. That was my daughter. I wouldn't let her race in a class like that, the man said as they signed up JC. Well, that's why she's not your daughter, Melvin said stiffly. The first race, which included 9 boys in her, turned out to be a disaster for JC. After 2 races, she was in 4th place. What? Asked Melvin, perplexed, as a sobbing JC helped him load her bike onto the trailer. What are you crying about? It was your first race! You beat 6 boys. Did you see any of them cry? But I wanted to win, exclaimed JC. Honey, we all do, said Melvin, hugging her tightly. Baby, next time, okay? You'll do better next time, okay? Kenneth was a little concerned when he got a picture of a smiling JC holding the 2nd place trophy. Would you listen to us if we told you not to race? Texted Bernice to him. Oh, wait. We told you not to race and you did anyway. His heart caught in his throat when he saw the picture of her racing. His little girl, his child, right in the thick of the motorcycles, fighting for the lead. Oh my God, he wrote to his father. I had no idea how scary it was for you to watch me do all that. And we survived, Melvin wrote. And we're surviving now. Melvin sent pictures of JC's first victory, and Kenneth was horrified. It had rained almost non-stop the day before, and by the time the 25th grade lined up at the gate, the track was a mess. The boy to JC's left, Bobby Areno, as JC knew, had a sneaky habit of crowding people around the outside of the turn. The first turn was a left turn, which meant he would be jostling with her. So when the gate came down, she ducked to the left, forcing Bobby to almost come to a complete stop. Dirt splattered in her face and legs. JC was grateful for the stupid glasses her grandfather had made her wear and the mouthpiece her grandmother had made her wear. We spent too much money on your mouth to let a rock knock your teeth out, Bernice muttered. I don't care if it looks stupid, you're wearing protection. By the end of the first lap, JC had to frantically wipe her glasses to see. By the second lap, she was in the lead and didn't have to wipe her glasses. When no one is splashing mud in your face, you don't have to wipe mud off your glasses. You cut me off, Bobby accused hotly, while JC wiped her dirty face. Oh, poor baby, JC teased, her barb made even more harsh by her girlish voice. Watch your ass next time, Bobby hissed, then cringed when Melvin grabbed him by his tank top and lifted him to his feet. Apologize for calling her a bitch, or I'll knock out every tooth in your smart mouth, brat, Melvin hissed. In the next race, Bobby tried to close in on her, but JC held her ground and Bobby had to concede in the first corner. Damn girl! Robert Areno pounced on his son. You let a girl beat you? Come on, you goddamn swagger. We're going home and putting this bike up for sale. Behave yourself and goddamn it, I'm paying all this money for you to let some girl beat yourself up. Kenneth was shocked at how dirty JC looked as she stood holding her first-place trophy. And in all the pictures, JC's dirty face glowed with absolute joy. "Are you still racing?" asked Elizabeth. "Yeah, kind of grew out of the 125 class. I have a YZ 250 now," smiled JC. "Isn't that dangerous?" asked Elizabeth. JC held back a sarcastic reply. She was trying to find a job. "Well, that's why we wear protective gear," explained JC. "So when's the next race?" asked Elizabeth. "Sunday at Turkey Creek," smiled JC. "Do you want to go?" Elizabeth looked up sharply. Was it written all over her face? Could people just look at her and tell she was in a lesbian relationship? There were no obvious signals coming from JC, however, just a genuine warm smile. "I don't know," Elizabeth relaxed. "I have a 2-year-old, he might not like all this noise." "Little boys?" JC laughed. "Most of them love all the noise." Michelle chose an inopportune moment to interrupt her boss. Elizabeth had inherited the sullen and unprofessional Michelle from the previous branch manager who had reprimanded her twice. Michelle's too short blouse and too short skirt, in Elizabeth's opinion, were the last straw. But Michelle sealed her fate by sending one of Grant Johnson's clients to Elizabeth's office instead of Grant's, simply because the latter looked angry. Michelle disliked Elizabeth and had a habit of sending all difficult clients to her boss's office out of spite. "You're not Grant," the man growled, swinging Elizabeth's door open. "Second door on the left," Elizabeth told him calmly. "Then why did that stupid bitch tell me the first door was on the right?" growled the man, slamming Elizabeth's door shut. "One last question, Miss K," Elizabeth asked, her anger quite evident. "Do you have any noticeable tattoos?" She pointed to her left breast. "It's a flaming heart and inside it says, 'I love my daddy,'" JC said, blushing hotly. "Nice," Elizabeth smiled. "I don't have one, but if I ever did, that's what it would say on mine. I mean, my dad is the most wonderful man in the world, but my mom never loved him and," JC continued. "The most wonderful man in the world is next to my dad," Elizabeth interrupted. "Nope," said JC in her huffy little girl voice. "Uh-huh," said Elizabeth, and then rose to her feet. She reached out and gave JC's palm a firm squeeze. "Miss K, I'm currently looking for a new secretary with the possibility of a promotion in the future. Interested?" asked Elizabeth. "Yes, ma'am," JC smiled cheerfully. "I'm sorry you'll have to learn as you go. I highly doubt Michelle will want to help you when I fire her," said Elizabeth. "Would you mind waiting in the dining room?" "It's the last door on the left." "Yes, ma'am," JC smiled. JD looked at Eric and fought the urge to burst into tears. "So?" asked Eric, feeling uncomfortable in the silence. "Baby, yeah, you know I really want to marry you, God. I love you so damn much," sighed JD. "Then what's the problem?" he asked, fighting his anger. "Oh God, I know it's so stupid, but I really wish Daddy would walk me down the aisle, you know," said Jadis, a small sob stuck in her throat. "Any chance of him getting parole or something?" asked Eric. "I don't know, you'd have to ask JC, she's up to date on all this stuff." Jadiah sighed again. She took his face in her small palms and looked deeply into his eyes. "Please believe me, I love you. I'm so in love with you. I can't wait to be Mrs. Eric Green, but damn it. This is probably really stupid, but I keep hoping that the longer I wait, maybe my daddy will come home, you know?" confessed Jadiah. JC walked into her house. The house was quiet, but it was always quiet when Melvin, Bernice, and Pebbles weren't there. JC had thought about getting another cat after Pebbles died, but she felt like she was betraying her sweet, loving, and loyal companion, so she didn't. She sighed gratefully, kicking her shoes off her feet. Her first day at her new job was fun, exciting, and even a little nerve-wracking. Elizabeth tried to help, but only Michelle knew some aspects of the phone system, and Michelle wasn't around to show JC. Michelle grabbed a few personal items off the desk, slammed her keys in her hands, and walked out of the building in tears. JC took her shoes into her bedroom and put them in the closet, then stripped naked and put on her dad's baseball jersey. She was grateful to her grandmother for not throwing out any of Daddy's things after Daddy got married and moved away. Jennifer stood at the entrance to the junk store. Until now, the 5 people she'd seen leaving and the 2 families she'd seen entering had been beneath her dignity, worthy of her scorn. But her mother had made it clear. Get a job or find a new place to live. Even though Jadiah now lived with her fiancé and they had a nice trailer, Jadiah hesitated for a long time, then finally mustered up the courage to tell her mother there was no place for her here. "I put a roof over your head so that—" Jennifer snapped at her oldest child. "No, you didn't," Jadiah snapped back. "Daddy did that. And you had nothing to do with it." And JC, That smug little bitch living alone in a huge house smiled sweetly, said in her damn annoying whisper, "No," and closed the door in her mother's face. In the face of her own mother. JC didn't even invite her in, just opened the door and stared at her for a long time. "Can I help you?" asked JC finally. "Can I help?" "What?" whispered Jennifer. "Is this how you greet your mother?" "Your own mother?" "Well, I thought it was a little nicer than what the hell do you want, you evil, narcissistic bitch," said JC. Jennifer stared at her youngest child, who was still a child in her 21 years, and then finally mouthed that she needed a place to live. "No," JC said and closed the door. Jennifer heard the deadbolt click. She finally came to her senses, got into Melissa's barely moving car, and drove to the junkyard. The sign out front said they were hiring. She pulled herself together, opened the door, and walked into the large building. "Hi, welcome to the Hoarder," a young woman greeted her. "Is there anything in particular I can help you find?" "A job," Jennifer admitted. "Oh, you're in luck," the girl smiled broadly. "We're in a jam here." "If you can walk and chew gum at the same time, you get hired." "Even if I have a criminal record?" asked Jennifer. "Yes, I have a criminal record too," Mindy Laporte admitted. "Two, actually." She turned and waved her hand at a large woman who was talking to a customer. "Plus sizes over there, buy 3 items and get 20% off the 4th item of equal or lesser price, right, Mindy?" said Grace. "She's looking for a job, but she says she's worried because she has a criminal record," Mindy explained, then glared as 3 high school students entered the store. "Yeah?" "Me too," Grace shrugged. "Even has the tattoos to prove it. St. Gabriel's School." "How about you?" "Me too. St. Gabriel's did 5 years for arson, which I didn't commit," Jennifer said. "Like playing with matches?" asked Grace, hiding a smirk. "No, I didn't do that," replied Jennifer. "Okay, come with me," Grace said, and walked to the back of the store. "Here, fill this out, find yourself an apron under that cabinet, walk around the store and figure out where everything is and then get to work," Grace said, as she handed Jennifer a 1-page application. "And what a rush, eh?" "Mike didn't show up, so we're short-handed." "What to do?" asked Jennifer, worried. "Just help people. Show them where things are, and then when we close at 9, help clean up. In the meantime, if you see anything on the floor, pick it up and put it back," Grace said, and left Jennifer to fill out the application. "Fine," Jennifer said grudgingly. She filled out the application, found a basket apron, and looked around. The layout of the store was pretty straightforward. The newborn and baby clothes were in the front right side of the store. The bigger kids were in the middle right section, and the men's section was in the back right section. Petites and junior sizes were in the front left, clearance racks were in the middle left, and the plus-size section was in the back left. And in the middle was the regular women's clothing. "Oh, this is nice," she commented, picking up a top that had slipped off the rack. "Employees get a 40% discount on non-sale items and a 10% discount on sale items," Mindy said cheerfully as she walked by with several tops in hand. JC was indulging in her favorite pastime, looking at the photo albums Melvin and Bernice had put together for her dad. Kenneth was an only child, so the album contained several pictures of him taken over the years. She smiled lovingly as she looked at the pictures of his childhood. Sipping wine from the only glass, JC contemplated his teenage years, turning her attention back to the prom picture. The smiling girl with the handsome daddy was a mystery to her. It was the only picture of a dark-haired girl. Melvin and Bernice admitted that they couldn't remember the woman's name, and she wasn't in any of Dad's high school yearbooks. The pictures of his baseball glory made her wistful. He could have been so much more than just a mattress factory worker. But he'd done the right thing, the way he thought was right, and married her mother. She glanced at the wedding album and smirked, looking at Jennifer's white dress. The noise in Angola never stops, not even at night. It's just a different kind of noise. Kenneth lay sleepless, not listening to the cacophony around him. Jalissa had died of a terminal illness. Both JC and Judea had sent him letters informing him of her passing. JC wrote that a nurse's aide told her that his letter was her favorite. Jalissa insisted that the aide read it to her every day. "So I read it to her again," JC wrote. "It made me cry. Your words were so beautiful." "I love you, Daddy." "I love you," Kenneth said aloud. Amidst the echo of screams, laughter, groans, clanging and clanking, no one heard his words. The end? Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. So subscribe to my channel and watch the next video.